Like many alcoholics, I started drinking at a young age. Alcohol was not forbidden in our family. Dad and Mom enjoyed wine occasionally. Dad liked beer as well. There was no social stigma associated with alcohol in our home. In my mid-teens, I began to associate with other teens that had access to alcohol. I soon discovered that when I drank, I felt better about myself. During this period, I didn't fit in very well at all. I was small for my age and gender. I tended towards intellectual pursuits. Yes, I was a nerd. But when I drank, I was part of the in crowd. This fed my need for social acceptance and masked the self-esteem problems I had. I was raised in a church environment and family. Our philosophy was quite strict and authoritarian. There was pressure to obey and to excel. So I drank to mask what I thought were inadequacies. This, over time, developed into full-blown dependence, with guilt and shame thrown in for good measure. When drinking, I did and said things that were inconsistent with the standard that I professed to hold to. Hence, more shame, more guilt, and of course, more drinking. This persisted in a cyclical way for many years. During this period of time, I came to know Jesus personally and was born again and baptized. But my addiction was well established by then. I was what some call a high-functioning alcoholic. I managed to get married, raise 2 wonderful children, complete college, and start a medicine career. During that time, I served in a small fishing village on the west coast of Washington. My practice included newborn babies all the way up to the very elderly. We lived in a beautiful condo right on the beach. My wife and I would often take walks on the beach watching the sun set. Our son still lives there, making a living as a fisherman. Along the way, though, God was trying to get my attention, but I ignored him and all the hints he was laying out for me. I went to several rehab facilities, only to stay sober for a short period of time, resenting it all the way, and then return to my habits. It finally caught up with me after I lost my license to practice medicine. You see, God had worked it out so that I was placed in a monitoring program that required support group meetings, regular testing to ensure compliance. It was supposed to be a 5-year program. I fought it for 15 years, wasting valuable time trying to beat the system rather than just accept it and comply. But I could not. Our children were on their own by then, so my wife and I moved from one of my siblings' houses to the next, barely making ends meet. We eventually moved out to Michigan and moved in with family once again. I became sick from drinking, but not sick of drinking. I quit the job I had, and my wife of 32 years told me she couldn't live like this anymore. She didn't leave me physically, but something changed emotionally. She told me she had given me over to God. What she meant was that she didn't want to stand around and watch me commit slow suicide. Our daughter told me one day, "Daddy, I'm going to have a baby someday, and he's going to need a grandpa." So my wife and our daughter sought pastoral help. And that's how I was introduced to Life Challenge. At first, I balked, but God made it very clear that this was His plan for my redemption. It took some time, But I was brought to the point where complete surrender of my life, my will, my addiction, and my future was the only option left available to me. Complete surrender. It was then that I decided to do exactly that. And God has opened his treasure chest of all things good and has been blessing me ever since. I feel as if I have been reborn again. The Bible makes sense to me, and my heart is filled with joy and love. I have a new identity from which I need not hide or run away. I have recovered the respect of my family. My children actually want my advice now, and we have begun the process of redeeming lost time. My wife says she's recovered the man that she fell in love with and married. Yes, I have a long way to go, but by the time I leave Life Challenge, I will be well equipped to restart my life in the service of God and others. I don't know what my specific future looks like, but I have learned to trust that as I surrender to the Holy Spirit, whatever happens will be good. I go back to James 4, 7, and 10 frequently to remind myself of the value of humility and surrender in making my mind fertile ground for the husbandry of the Holy Spirit. I am proof that our God is patient, kind, merciful, and willing to forgive, and happy to live his life of love in us, if only we will give up our will and our life to him. Oh, and that new identity I spoke of comes with a new title. I am Grandpa.